Curve Servers, Episode 6. Last time we checked in, I was out there short stopping. Yeah, short stopping. I was, trying to make the sale before the sale reached the block. This behavior didn't go on too long. For a couple of nights, maybe a week or two, I was able to, move around the block on the late nights without being detected. One night, it's probably like, a little bit after midnight. I'm creeping down because I want to get my shortstop on. While I was down there hanging out on the corner, two of my homeboys saw me. Now, I don't know where they were coming from. This was Jap and Tom Tom. All I heard was, "Hey, boy, what you doing over there? You show stopping?" That's the first time I ever heard the term show stopping. Hey, come here. So I walked down there. I'm like, "What's going on?" Tom Tom's like, hey, what you over here show stopping? I'm like, "Hey, what's that?" They're like, "Yeah, you know what you doing. You trying to sit out there so you can try to catch you a little custody before they pull up on the block. And you can't be doing that shit, homie. Now, this your only warning on that shit. You do that shit, you get caught doing that shit again, there's gonna be repercussions." I can feel the butterflies in my stomach starting to fly around. I said, "Oh, all right, Tom Tom. I didn't even know it was that serious, man. I just, you guys just be okay. Noted." Now, me and Jap wasn't that tight. We was cool, but I didn't really fuck with Jap like that. And Jap, of course, he immediately started laughing. This little nigga out here trying to show stop. Nigga, you fuck around and get robbed. The butterflies in my stomach stopped flying as my eyes squared in on Jap. With just a little slight head nod of mine, he saw and noticed what he stated. See, we all grew up like family on this block. You gotta watch your words. You can be held accountable. We're gonna leave that alone for now. But Tom gave me strict warnings about the rules that's being laid down up and down this block. You are not to be allowed to go down to the end of the corner and around the corners short stopping. If you're gonna go down to the corner, you need to go all the way down around on the main street, way down on the main street, and get out there and worry about the police getting you. You don't get to harbor over here with this type of protection that's set up where it doesn't look like there's no serving going on. Yeah, the way it's set up on our block, it doesn't look like there's no serving going on. They keep it looking quiet on purpose. So if you think you're gonna stand outside on the corner, you got another thing coming. This was a lesson that I learned. Because the boys over on the Ave, they was wild. But they did have a very high police presence that came crashing down on them soon. But that's not my story to tell. Let's whip back over here to this block where the rules are different. So now I learned the lesson. I can't be venturing down trying to show stop. I definitely don't have what it takes to venture down on the main boulevard where there's a lot more activity, different people from all different parts of the community of Los Angeles County that gathers all up and down the boulevard with all these motels where a lot of this crack and prostitution is being sold. These blocks was also part of the community we grew up in, right? But we just didn't hang out on those blocks because those blocks were very, very fast. Yeah. There was no apartments or houses on this main street. There were only businesses and motels and people hanging in front of businesses and motels. See, on our main street, there were apartments up and down this block. So it was easier for us to hang on this block than go around to the other boulevard. Where it was obvious. You hanging in front of some motels. The police gonna pull right up on you. Different homies from different communities gonna pull right up on you. It's just a different world. I didn't want that world. I wanted the protection of the family, of the block. So I had to follow the rules. Hey, Murdoch, Tom, and Jack pushed up on me last night. They was pushing a line about me show stopping. He said, what's show stopping? I said, you know, how we be trying to hang down on these other corners to try to get a crackhead before they hit the block. They said we can't be doing that no more. Yeah, they're going to push the line on us. We had to rethink our strategy. Although the curve service is popping, and I've been invited to go hang down with the curve service by Dirt Bike, the head of the clique of these young curve servers that's beginning to bloom. And Dirt Bike's already gave me permission to hang within his clique. I'm still hanging with these young dudes that I'm a little bit more comfortable with as far as making my moves. And me and Murdoch, we got our own program we want to try to run. Nobody knows that I'm getting this work from Big Power. As we hanging on the block, we starting to integrate with some of the older homies more. They're starting to accept that there's a couple of young dudes that's out here on the block with them, and they are to be respected like any other member of this hustling community. We was able to become part of the crew, and it was not strangely looked upon us to see us hanging with these older guys and, you know, moving in and out of certain apartments where everybody hung out at that was part of certain crews. Yeah, we was able to move the crack. Going to school and coming back from school, that was a total different story. See, within the community, there was a lot of protection, right? Because one thing you could say about drugs and money, it supersedes the gang life most of the time. 9 times out of 10. There are some exceptions. But most of the time, when it's coming down to making some money, the gang rules kind of go second. I've seen it too many times. I don't care where you're from. They'll put that to the side if it's about making some money. And us being a crew of hustlers, these crew of hustlers identify with various different gangs. But the money and the unity to the hustling cause superseded their personal gang affiliation, long as nobody was disrespected, right? Long as language was fair. This hustling crew did things a little different. But when it comes to going to school, I'm in junior high, early high school. Kids in other communities on the way to school and back from school, they don't give a damn about whatever protections that me and my friends have in whatever community, and that we selling drugs and we living a different life. Because most of these kids in these other communities, they're not even selling drugs yet. Nah, they just gang banging. In the late 80s, when crack was first popping really heavy on our block, most of the other communities that I was aware of, there were some that had crack and was selling crack. A lot of the other communities wasn't selling crack. They were just gang banging. Us being associated with certain D-boys and being part of certain crews, we was able to venture into different neighborhoods, dealing with older members of people's neighborhoods, strictly because we was making drug deals. Being a D-boy, it had its rewards. It allowed you to skip past a lot of the youngster shit and get straight to the top, and you get to dealing with the older homies in the community that a lot of the youngsters are not even allowed to hang with. That's one of the good things about being a D-boy. You was able to move into different communities. Going to school and coming home from school, nah, those rules didn't apply. You can get pulled up on. Any group of youngsters can walk up on you on any given moment and ask you those words, and it can get very violent. Outside of that, you're really dealing with a higher level of dudes within many neighborhoods. Because a lot of the youngsters your age, at least back then, that was my age, they wasn't allowed to be in this crack world. Yeah, they wasn't allowed to. You know why? Because their parents wasn't on crack, and their parents wasn't involved with that kind of lifestyle. They just was in the gangs of their community, and they had decent parents, half of them. So yeah, they go in the house when the street lights come on. Yeah, your typical gang member in most neighborhoods. I'm not talking about the older kids. I'm talking about the 12-year-olds to like the 16-year-olds. They go in the house a little bit after the street lights come on. But not the D-boys and not the bad kids in the community. No, they stay out late. And most of the kids I saw in the late 80s, mid 80s to late 80s, no, they had to go in the house when the street lights came on. There was only a very few that was allowed to stay out there with the wolves of the community. Yeah, because there's some wolves out there. Going to school and coming home from school, you had to deal with the little pressure, right? I mean, obviously, there's gang influences everywhere. In the late nights, in the night school hours, 10 p.m. to about 5 a.m., maybe 4:30, that's a different set of wolves. See, all the 12-year-olds, the 15-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, even the 17-year-olds, their ass is in the house, cuddled up asleep, warm, under their blanket. There's only certain kids that's outside after 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. What's happening at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, that's when a lot of the 21-year-old, 22-year-old, 23-year-olds, they're coming back from the clubs. Yeah, they active in the neighborhood, pulling up at the hamburger stands. You know, 'cause we got a 24-hour hamburger stand right here on the corner. See, there's a different set of circumstances you dealing with when you running around the streets late at night, curve serving. Yeah, we used to have something called the street races. They was on Florence and Main. I think on Tuesday nights. They would start at like 1 o'clock in the morning. This is the mid 80s, late 80s. Some of the homies would let us jump in the car with them. And they'd take us to these street races on Florence and Main. We'd jump out, there'd be people everywhere. Everywhere, all in front of the donut shop, all across the street. I mean, everywhere. People be racing their cars, Nissan trucks, racing against other trucks for the pink slip, for money, for different reasons. Yeah, it was popping. This was a different crew outside, a different set of wolves. If you was there at the street races on Florence and Main at 1 o'clock in the morning in the late 80s, you know what I'm talking about. If you wasn't there, don't worry about it. This went right over your head. See, now I'm starting to move throughout a greater part of Los Angeles County. I'm starting to see where other parts of the West Side is. Because I grew up on the East Side. We knew there was a West Side. I mean, we drove through it on the way to Venice Beach. My auntie stayed over on 83rd and Western, so we went over there every holiday, and we drive through it. And from my auntie house on the West Side, we played in the backyard and in the front yard. And then when Thanksgiving was over, or Christmas, or whatever reason we was hanging out over there for whatever family function, we jumped in the car and we drove down Manchester all the way back to the East Side. I'm starting to get in the car with some of the older homies. We going to the street races. Right? Although the street races were still on the East Side on Florence and Main, but Main is considered like the main line. This what separates the East Side from the West Side. At least back in these days, in the mid 80s, this how it was told to me. They said, we're going to go on the West Side because we're going to go on Crenshaw. I said, wait, what's the West Side and what's the East Side? Yeah, I had those questions. Everything on that side of the 110 freeway, that's considered the West Side. Everything on this side of the 110 freeway is considered the East Side. I said, oh, really? Then one of the other homies jumped in. He said, nah, I mean, that's cool, but technically, Main Street. He said, we go to street races at night where that Winchell's Donut is at? That's called Main Street. That's the separator. Everything on that side of Main Street is called the West Side. Everything on this side of Main Street is called the East Side. I said, oh, really? I didn't know that. He said, yeah, now you do. That's the first time I was laced up about what's the East Side and what's the West Side. Because they were saying we're going to the West Side. We're going to go to Crenshaw. I said, what? What's Crenshaw? They said, yeah, World on Wheels, Crenshaw. There's a lot of places. You're going to roll with us, homie. Yeah, we're going to get to plenty of these stories. Street races, Crenshaw, skating rings, bowling alleys. This is a brand new late night world that I didn't know existed. Because the first time he's stepping off the block, the Jamaicans is taking us to Inglewood and we inside a trap house. Now, we back on the block. I'm accepted into the crew, but there's a lot of older homies that's living a lifestyle I didn't even know they was living. And slowly but surely, because I'm accepted in the crew, they're starting to let me roll with them. I would go back to school in the 8th grade and 9th grade, and I would tell my friends, hey, we was at the street races. Like 1, 2 in the morning. They was racing up and down the street in these Nissan trucks. My friends would look at me and laugh like I was lying. I'm just talking about my normal friends at school that I used to know from elementary and junior high that wasn't a part of this crackhead community. Because they haven't swept everywhere. It was only in rare spots in the late 80s. We talking about 87, 88. It still ain't swept everywhere. It was going on, but there was still plenty of parts of the ghetto that was not crack infested. So most of your friends in high school, when you're a freshman in high school in the 9th grade or in the 8th grade, or maybe the 10th grade, most of your friends, they don't know what crack is. Right? Not in the late 80s. They know what it is as far as hearing about it and people, but they ain't never seen it. Most of their parents not on it. They're not feeling the effects of it. They just see the effects on it on other students. For the foremost, they just got jokes. Yeah, in 8th, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, yeah, they just got jokes. Either your money right or your money not. Yeah, if your money ain't right because your mama a crackhead, yeah, we're going to make fun of your ass. Hey, why you ain't got no brand new feelers on? I don't know, probably because his mama on crack. Yeah, that might hit you. That's a fact. That was normal teasing. Or we call back in the days, that was regular old bagging. But if you was a D-boy and you was able to present yourself with clean clothing or up-to-date clothing, the only working parents was able to provide, yeah, you can blend in with the regular kids. Yeah, you don't have to be the butt of the joke. Matter of fact, you can be above the joke. People can look at you and be like, wait, it's something different about you. Because when you a D-boy and you buying your own clothes, your swag is a little different. The way you move is a little different. People notice. See, when I would tell my little friends at school in the 8th and 9th grade about the street races, about Crenshaw, there was few that understood because some of these guys, although they wasn't crack dealers, they was from different neighborhoods that had people in their community doing that. So there was abreast to the situation. They was well aware. But most of the kids in my school, nah, they ain't never seen it. They don't know much about it. And some of these stories is a flat out lie, I'm telling. Yeah, to them, this is fantasy. But some of us that was from a little bit more of the gutter side, the trenches of the ghetto, oh yeah, we knew there was real street races going on at 1 o'clock in the morning. We knew there was all kind of community activity going on at these bowling alleys, up and down some of these main streets. People just get home from the clubs at 2:30 in the morning, pulling up on the block. See me? This is the first time I start hearing about people with fake ID. Yeah, see, I was rolling with the homie one night, and they was talking about parking lot pimping. You know, pulling into this club and just hanging out in the parking lot. Because most of them didn't have ID to get in. You got to remember, when I'm saying older homies, I'm talking about 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21 max. When them 21-year-olds and 23-year-olds, when I'm 13 and 14 years old, them are OGs to me. Them are bigger homies. Older homies and big homies, me, these are 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds I'm talking about. So most of these guys didn't have the ID to get in some of these clubs. So they just pull in the parking lot and hang out. We might pull into a club or some of the older homies is at, so we can just park a lot, pimp, and we'll see them when they come out. But then, the homie Warren. See, Warren was a real hustler. Warren was like, look, I got this dude that's at the DMV. He can get everybody fake IDs. Immediately, my head turned. What? Fake IDs? I'm only in the 9th grade. I'm in the parking lot at the club. It's popping. People still going in the club, people coming out the club. We get there, it's like, I think a little after midnight. Yeah, we just hanging in the club. They smoking, drinking. I don't do any of that shit. I don't smoke, drink. I'm just hanging. And that's when Warren was like, look, for $250, I can get you an ID. This is a real ID from the DMV. I'm just ear hustling. Because Warren ain't talking to me. Warren fuck with me, but he's an older dude. So it's only so much Warren fuck with me. That's my nigga. I fuck with Warren. But Warren's at this time in my life, I'm still a youngster, and Warren recognized it, but he's looking at me like, damn, what the hell you doing in the parking lot? But all right, I see you hanging. I see you doing your thing. You know, it is what it is. Be careful. You know, that's his attitude towards me. But anyway, you niggas over here, I got this fake ID for y'all. So, of course, I hit Warren up. I see Warren in the neighborhood. A couple weeks later, I say, hey, Warren, let me holler at you. He looked at me strangely. What's up with it? You know, Warren known for pushing that water around different communities. Yeah, that's Sherm. Yeah, Warren don't fuck with everybody. Yeah. See, he was a hustler before crack hit the community. So he really wasn't into selling crack. He was dealing with a far more dangerous community of customers. Because the Sherm had the PCP community. No, you're talking about some serious dudes. That's a whole different level of drug dealing. But we'll leave that stories for some different people who actually sold PCP. But my homeboy Warren, he was like, what you want, my nigga? I said, hey, I need one of them fake IDs. He said, man, I'm not fucking with you, my nigga. You a little bitty kid, my nigga. Like, no, that shit ain't gonna work. Basically the same thing that I always hear. You're just too young. Fuck. Walk away. Chilling on the block up to the homie Murdoch. Man, I'm trying to get this ID, man. This nigga Warren, man. This nigga hating on me. Now, Murdoch, see, certain kids, although you the homies, they got to go in the house. So this is not even an interest to them. They don't even have this type of money. I don't either. I don't have $250, but I have the ability to make $250 and save it up over time, right? I have the ability to make a plan because I'm actually on the block. I'm part of the crew now. I've been part of the crew for like a year. Don't worry. We're going to go back and visit some of the adventures that happened over a year of me being part of this crew. Because by the time I'm in like the 9th grade, I've been with the crew for like a year. I still got a kid lens, slightly. Because let me tell you something. The older dudes in my crew, they knew me. They knew my family. They loved me. So they wasn't allowing me to just turn in to this, this asshole bad kid. No. For me to hang with this older group of kids and being the youngest kid in the crew, by far, it was a very strict set of rules I was always following. I was never the kid in the neighborhood that was allowed to curse or talk wild to any of the parents up and down the block. You might see some of them older teenagers talking a little crazy here and there, but not me. The homie Dirt Bike, he banned me from joining the gang. I'm going to keep it real. Yeah, because everybody was joining different gangs. This is just the natural progression of junior high kids. I don't know how it goes now, but back in the mid 80s, by the time you got to high school, if you didn't claim your gang, then don't claim it at all. That was the rules. So in the 8th grade, because the junior high I went to was 7th and 8th grade. High school starting at 9th. By the 8th grade, there was a huge push to What community? What gang are you going to join from what community? Because lots of communities have multiple gangs within them. Dirt Bike had a very strict rule. When he started this clique of hustlers, anybody that was already in a gang, that's fine. That ain't none of his business. Just don't supersede your gang politics over this hustling business. And don't nobody within the crew disrespect nobody else's gang. Other words, this ain't gonna work. It was real simple. And anybody that's part of the crew that's not part of a gang yet, if you join a gang, you are kicked out of this crew. Yeah, it was real simple. So for me, this was a life-changing rule. No matter what my homeboys did, I wasn't allowed to. There were certain rules, and I had to follow them. So although a lot of my friends made decisions that probably they regret to this day, I was always focused on the money. Yeah, the women and the money. Because my friends was always in the clubs and they was always traveling to different clubs to hit the parking lots. And some of them had IDs. And then as Warren started handing out fake IDs, they was entering the club, the 20-year-olds and the 19-year-olds. Warren, I've been in the crew for a while. Stop treating me like this. My bread's up. I just hitting the dice game. Yeah, there was dice games all the time. Yeah, it was big dice games all the time. This was most of the money went to when you were a young curve server. Most of your money went in dice games, cars, music, rims for your cars. This is the thought process of a bunch of high school kids and young adults, 20, 19, 21, young adults. Nobody had any thoughts for the future. It was just a moment. And there was nothing more important to me than to get an ID that said I was 21. This was very important to me. Why? Because I wanted to go in the club like the big homies. Don't leave me outside in the parking lot. Let me in. This is the end of episode 6. Stay tuned. More curve servers coming to you.